We got new information regarding AEW Fight Forever Season 3, as well as some info on Season 2, The Storm is Coming, and a few more tidbits regarding Fight Forever's future. So the first thing we need to discuss is Toni Storm. The Storm is Coming DLC is the third and final piece of content coming in the second season pass. AEW Games made it official by posting online that The Storm is Coming DLC will be available on January 10th on Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC. And as you can see from the footage, we know that we are going to be getting Outcast version of Toni Storm, so her model is going to be out of date. But we're going to talk about what all this means and why this happens too in just a minute. And just so you know too, that Season 2, when it did arrive, we've had it now for over a month, and you got the Acclaimed for the first content drop. You got Beat the Elite, which is their Towers mode, and it's for singles matches to complete. And the rewards there by completing all of the towers and doing the different difficulties, or just rinse and repeat, doing it over and over again. You're going to be able to get t-shirts and different skins unlocked for that. And the final DLC, like we mentioned, is The Storm is Coming, which is just Toni Storm and 10 new audio tracks to go with it. All of this can be purchased within the season pass as one total for $25. If you want to buy everything individually on like the Nintendo eShop as an example, the Acclaimed are $11.99, Beat the Elite mode itself is $6.99, and the big one that has a lot of people upset and pushing back about this online, Toni Storm to purchase individually is $11.99. For $12 plus tax, you can get Toni Storm on her own. This has me worried for future content because Season 3 is confirmed by AEW Games. There are rumors of getting Swerve, Edge, Saraya included for Season 3 content. I'm a little concerned that they are going to obviously package this in terms of a bundle for $25 again, but the individual price for content for single wrestlers at $12 is extremely aggressive, and it has a lot of people pushing back on the idea. And based on the timelines of Season 2's release and Toni Storm coming out on January 10th, it has me feeling like we are likely to get the next content drop, Season 3, around February. Honestly, I think if AEW Games and THQ want to be able to have eyeballs on the product, eyeballs on Season 3, they need to do it before or after 2K24. I know they're different games, I know they speak to somewhat of a different audience, and frankly, a lot of people are not playing Fight Forever, at least anecdotally. So does it really matter when Season 3 drops? Maybe, maybe not. But if it were me, I would probably steer clear of that first 2 weeks of March when 2K24 is coming out. So either get Season 3, the first piece of content drop, get that out there mid-February, end of February, so you have that, and then do the next content drop in like April. But what about supporting the game even further and further down the road? After World's End, AEW's pay-per-view, Tony Khan did the media scrum, and someone from the media actually asked him about Fight Forever. It's a miracle. I didn't think I'd ever see the day when Tony Khan would have to answer a question. Well, he answers questions more indirectly. Doesn't really answer them. More just talks more about AEW in general, and they're on TBS, etc. Anyways, during the media scrum, when asked about the future support for Fight Forever, mentioning names like Swerve, Daniel Garcia, they are still not on the roster, Khan confirmed that there will be more roster support. The transcripts come from WrestleZone. Tony Khan said the following, quote, "Great question. So there are some top stars, great examples. I think we're going to continue adding stars, doing downloadable packs, and featuring more people in the game. But I think those are great examples of people we could utilize. Great people that people would want to see in the game in the future. We'll continue adding people in Fight Forever. It's our first ever video game release. It's been distributed all over the world. We've sold so many copies and continue the sales through the holiday season. And that was our beginning of AEW Games as far as console game launch." Tony Khan continued to say that we have launched other properties before that, but that was certainly our most ambitious project. To me, he's talking about the mobile games that he has done. He did like the General Manager game, and they've got other ones out there already. And now I think it's the beginning, and certainly I think we will be supporting Fight Forever for a really, really long time. And the next time we come back, I expect someday in the future we would come back with a console game. But for the foreseeable future, all of the resources are really going into keeping Fight Forever and really updating that game and doing the best we can for people who bought Fight Forever, adding the great names and keeping it current. And the article also adds in how Evil Uno announced during the All Elite Arcade that information on Season 3 will be coming soon. So yeah, they are going to support Fight Forever for the foreseeable future. Now, Tony Khan, I don't expect him to be necessarily in the weeds about everything with the video game side and knowing the ins and outs in terms of what content is going to be coming out, what fans could expect, and also he would want to keep a surprise even if he did know. It's good news that they are going to continue to support it, coming from Tony Khan, that they're going to support the console game. What does that really mean though? Because if he says he's going to support it for a very, very long time, he's talking about all of the wrestlers that he wants to be able to add in and mentioning that they're going to support it with more downloadable content. Yes, that is great, and that is very much what I expect, that they would continue to do a rollout of individual pieces of DLC, giving us Swerve and Saraya. Deonna Purrazzo made her AEW debut as well, so eventually we might even see her added into the game. There are still some names for AEW that are still just not even in there. Daniel Garcia is one of them that they mentioned. So sure, they can continue to add the roster support as DLC. I don't see them going away from that, but how long is the support going to go? And really, if they're going to have AEW Fight Forever continue on month after month, or every quarter releasing new content drops and new season passes, we're still going back to the original concerns that the core game functionality is still a mess and that there's still glaring problems that need to be addressed. And one of the big things that everyone talks about is the inclusion of new match types. I personally don't think that adding in just a cage match in next month or anything like that is substantial enough to bring the base players back. I think it's enough for people to turn on the game again, to do a cage match, whether it's going to be a singles match or a tag team match. But once you do it a few times, are players really gonna just stick with the game as a whole just because they got a cage match added in? I don't think so. I think the roster additions are great too, but once again, even if you're gonna give me Saraya and Adam Copeland and Swerve, will I pick those up? Maybe. But after you do one or two matches, what does it really matter? And another concern that players and fans have had over the last several months has been with kind of the timeline, and looking at Toni Storm as an example, her character model being out of date before it even releases. But there is some light shed on this and why this is going on. So Zaidi, or Ziddy, is one of the global senior CMs for THQ Nordic and does a very good job of trying to communicate with players and with fans as much as possible in terms of where the game is at, bug fixes, updates, the patch notes being released, and does his best to communicate with players overall. He did give some interesting information though in response to a question regarding the content and kind of the overall rollout. So he says, quote, "We covered that in the past, but remember that season 1 and season 2 was basically planned during production. So any feedback, response, and so on is the stuff that we are starting to see now and in the future." So this is talking about how season 1 and season 2 content were already outlined and put together during the production of the game and its release. And so once the game came out, Ziddy asked for player feedback, put a giant Excel sheet together, which is phenomenal. That's great communication. And in the first couple of weeks, really started gathering all of the fan feedback, player feedback of what needs to be added, fixed, etc. But that's after the game has launched. He continues to say that if you look at the timelines as we covered in the past, it is at least 5 weeks of submission for a DLC. So Toni Storm went into submission at the absolute latest end of November, saying that at the very latest, Toni Storm would have been put into production end of November as the absolute cutoff in order for them to get her out for January 10th. He continues to say, then you have to add dev time and so on top. Patches is at minimum 3 to 4 weeks submission as well, plus dev time, so generally 1 to 2 months behind what you guys see. So we get a patch 1.08, that is already several weeks, if not a month or two, behind of its release date. But they're behind, like they're always going to be a little bit behind. It doesn't mean that they're not listening to that stuff, but I think that they're just going to be a few weeks to a few months behind the cycle. He finishes off by saying, I know this means nothing and most doesn't care about that, but that does explain why some stuff that comes out is stuff you guys don't really want, as it was done way before the feedback came in. So there's good news within this. Number one, I really do appreciate the communication and not being able to give like a concrete roadmap or anything like that. I understand that. I believe Zaidi said in another post too that, to summarize, that someone asked regarding giving players a roadmap, and I believe his response was something to the effect of, it's difficult to put a full roadmap together for players because if we do that and give you hard dates, what if we miss them and then there's issues there, stuff gets delayed, stuff happens. I understand not giving players, you know, January 20th, this is coming out. this patch is going to be released here, and this match type is going to be added in May, and so on. I understand not being able to always put on a hard date onto things because development time changes and stuff happens. But I do appreciate this amount of communication here to kind of open the door a little bit and let players know, hey, this is how it kind of works. This is why you're seeing the things you are, or you're not seeing the things that you want to see in the game. Some people will look at this and say, I don't really care. I just want to be able to play the game and have more content added to it. They should just be putting this stuff out. It should have all been there ahead of time of launch. I agree with that. I don't think the game should have been released when it did originally, giving the devs more time to add more things in to polish the game. But they were probably, and I'm guessing, but they were probably under a crunch of having this thing in production for over 3 years, and it was time to get this thing out. So I do understand it, but it is to just echo what players are talking about, how they want to be able to enjoy the game. There's aspects that are fun. Yeah, the roster additions are good, but it's not addressing the core problem yet of more match types, more depth being added in for players so that they can come back all the time. Speaking of coming back all the time, a lot of you guys actually do come back quite often, but I would love it if you hit the subscribe button on the channel, because like 60% of you watch the show, but then don't hit the subscribe. So it would mean a lot to me if you did that. I can add as much value with AEW Fight Forever updates, 2K24 news, and so on. It helps us out a lot and helps us grow and expand the channel. But I still feel like Fight Forever needs a mode, and that would be a large build in my opinion, and a large add-on, and that might be kind of Fight Forever 2.0. That might be until late 2024 if we ever saw something like that, and something akin to a universe mode, GM mode at a very basic level to get players back in there more and more often for the replayability. But comment below your thoughts on Season 2 content with Tony Storm, Season 3 content and what might be, and click right here for more AEW Fight Forever coverage. See ya.